They think compassion means answering every call, absorbing every mood, explaining every boundary, and forgiving every disrespect because the other person is wounded. But one day, something inside them becomes still. The phone rings and they do not run. Someone withdraws affection and they do not chase. Someone misunderstands them and they do not break their own peace trying to prove their goodness. Someone brings chaos to the gate of their soul, and for the first time, they do not open the door. This is the day the empath becomes powerful, not loud, not bitter, not vengeful, powerful, because the most dangerous person to manipulation is not the one who hates you. It is the one who can still care and still walk away. Understand this deeply. An empath does not become powerful when they stop feeling. An empath becomes powerful when they stop allowing feelings to rule their life. They still feel, they still notice, they still understand. But now they ask a question they forgot for many years. Is this mine to carry? This question is a sword. It cuts through guilt. It cuts through confusion. It cuts through the old belief that every wounded person has the right to wound you. It cuts through the habit of making yourself smaller so others can feel comfortable. It cuts through the illusion that your value comes from being needed. Many people loved the old version of you, but not all of them loved you. Some loved your availability, some loved your silence, some loved how quickly you forgave, some loved how easily you blamed yourself, some loved that they could enter your peace with muddy feet and you would still clean the floor for them. When you stop doing this, they will say you changed. Let them. The river changes when it learns where the banks are. Fire changes when it learns where the hearth is. The heart changes when it learns the difference between compassion and self-abandonment. You were not born to be an emotional shelter for people who refuse to build their own home. You were not born to become the place where others throw their storms. You were not born to rescue people from consequences every time life tries to teach them. This is hard for the empath to hear because the empath feels the pain of others as if it is their own. When someone cries, their chest tightens. When someone is angry, their nervous system trembles. When someone is disappointed, guilt rises like smoke. They begin to ask, what did I do? How can I fix it? How can I make them okay again? But not every emotion in the room belongs to you. Sometimes their anger is their responsibility. Sometimes their sadness is their lesson. Sometimes their disappointment is only the sound of your boundary doing its work. Sometimes their silence is not punishment, but permission for you to return to yourself. You must learn this. A peaceful person is not a person who allows everything. A peaceful person is someone who knows what must not enter. Even a temple has doors. Even sacred ground has walls. Even the softest heart needs protection. If you leave every gate open, do not be surprised when your inner garden becomes a road for everyone else's footsteps. Boundaries are not cruelty. Boundaries are the shape of self-respect. They teach others where you begin, where you end, and what cannot be crossed without losing access. Some will call this selfish, but often people call you selfish when you stop serving their selfishness. Do not be disturbed. A person who benefits from your exhaustion will rarely celebrate your rest. A person who benefits from your confusion will rarely honor your clarity. A person who benefits from your guilt will rarely respect your no. So you must become loyal to truth, not to the image of being nice, not to the fear of being misunderstood, not to the old role of healer, rescuer, peacekeeper, and emotional servant. Loyal to truth. Truth says, I can love you and still not carry you. Truth says, I can understand your wound and still not accept your behavior. Truth says, I can forgive you and still not return. Truth says, I can be kind and still be unavailable. This is the path of the awakened empath. Before awakening, the empath believes love is measured by how much they endure. After awakening, they understand love is also measured by how much truth it can hold. If love requires you to disappear, it is not love. If peace requires you to silence your pain, it is not peace. If loyalty requires you to betray yourself, it is not loyalty. It is bondage dressed in gentle words. Many empaths are tired because they have been trying to prove their worth to people who only value what they can take. They give warmth to cold hands. They give patience to careless hearts. They give second chances to repeated patterns. They give explanations to people who do not listen. They give their life force to relationships that return only confusion. Then they wonder why they feel empty. It is because they have been pouring sacred water into broken cups that do not want to be repaired. The answer is not to stop being water. The answer is to choose where you pour. Water is gentle, but when directed, it cuts stone. Wind is invisible, but when gathered, it moves mountains. Compassion is soft, but when disciplined, it becomes strength. Your softness was never the problem. Your lack of protection was the problem. A flower is soft, yet it pushes through hard earth. A river is soft, yet it shapes the valley. Breath is soft, yet without it, the body dies. Do not confuse softness with weakness. Do not let a harsh world convince you that your heart must become hard to survive. You do not need a hard heart. You need a trained heart. A trained heart knows when to open and when to close. It knows not every cry is a command. It knows not every apology is change. It knows not every intense connection is healthy. It knows not every person who needs you loves you. It knows not every familiar feeling is destiny. Sometimes what feels familiar is only an old wound recognizing a new face. Be careful what you call connection. Some people feel powerful in your life because they awaken your anxiety. Some bonds feel deep only because the wound is deep. Some relationships feel spiritual only because they pull you into the same lesson again and again. The powerful empath pauses. They no longer rush toward emotional intensity. They observe, they breathe, they allow time to reveal character. They understand that chemistry can be loud while consistency is quiet. They understand that safety may not feel dramatic at first because chaos once taught their body that love must feel like a storm. But love does not have to be a storm. Love can be calm. Love can be consistent. Love can respect your no. Love can listen without forcing you to beg. Love can repair without making you feel guilty for being hurt. Love can bring rest to your nervous system instead of making your body prepare for battle. To receive this kind of love, the empath must stop being addicted to being needed. This is not shame. This is awareness. Many empaths learned early that love had to be earned. They learned to be useful. They learned to be quiet. They learned to sense moods before danger arrived. They learned to keep peace, even if the peace cost them their own voice. They learned that being good meant not having needs. So later in life, they choose people who need them more than they love them. They become the listener, the fixer, the patient one, the strong one, the forgiving one. They confuse exhaustion with devotion. But worth that must be purchased through suffering is not love. It is a transaction where you pay with your soul. The awakened empath breaks this contract. They stop asking, how can I make them stay? They ask, why am I trying to keep someone who brings me pain? They stop asking, what more can I give? They ask, why do I feel guilty for needing peace? They stop asking, how can I prove I care? They ask, why is my care being measured by how much disrespect I tolerate? These questions open the prison. And when the prison opens, some people will not clap, they will panic. They will try to pull you back into the old role. They will call you distant. They will say you used to be kinder. They will remind you of the past. They will use guilt, anger, pity, nostalgia, and silence like ropes. Recognize the ropes. One rope says, after everything I did for you. Another rope says, you are too sensitive. Another rope says, you are overreacting. Another rope says, nobody will love you like I do. Another rope says, I need you. But a rope is still a rope, even when it is made from familiar words. Do not hate the person holding it. Just do not put it around your neck again. There is a moment in training when the body wants to return to the old habit. The hand reaches for the phone. The mind begins to prepare the long explanation. The heart says, maybe this time they will understand. Maybe this time they will change. Maybe this time my pain will matter. Pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, is this compassion or fear wearing the clothes of compassion? Fear often disguises itself as kindness. Fear says, I do not want to hurt them, when the deeper truth is, I am afraid of their reaction. Fear says, I should give one more chance, when the deeper truth is, I am afraid to accept what their pattern has already shown. Fear says, I care too much to leave, when the deeper truth is, I do not yet know who I am without rescuing them. This is where practice begins. Practice letting the phone remain silent. Practice not answering chaos with urgency. Practice feeling guilt without obeying it. Practice allowing others to face the results of their choices. Practice saying no without decorating it with long apologies. Practice choosing peace even when your old self wants to chase. Power is built in these quiet moments, not in revenge, not in proving them wrong, not in making speeches about your healing. Power is built when you refuse to return to the habit that harmed you. The empath who stops caring becomes powerful because their energy returns to the center. Before, their energy was everywhere. In old conversations, in imagined apologies, in other people's moods, in unfinished arguments, in one-sided love, in waiting for someone to become who they promised to be, in trying to be understood by people who were committed to misunderstanding them. Now the energy comes back, the mind becomes clear, the face becomes calm, the body begins to breathe, the voice becomes steady, the eyes become sharper, the sleep becomes deeper, their presence changes, they no longer leak life. People feel this. They may not know what changed, but they feel that access is different. They feel that manipulation no longer enters easily. They feel that guilt no longer opens the door. They feel that the old keys do not work. This is not arrogance. It is alignment. When you are aligned, you do not need to announce your boundaries. Your behavior carries them. You do not need to win every argument. Your peace is proof enough. You do not need to punish those who hurt you. Your growth becomes the answer. Some people want a reaction because your reaction tells them they still control your center. When you stop reacting, they meet a wall they did not know existed. A gentle wall, a quiet wall, a wall without hatred, but a wall. This wall is sacred. Behind it is your breath. Behind it is your purpose. Behind it is your nervous system. Behind it is the child inside you who learned too early to be responsible for everyone's feelings. Behind it is the future self who is waiting for you to stop repeating the past. Guard the wall, not with bitterness, with discipline. Bitterness says, I will never love again. Discipline says, I will love with wisdom. Bitterness says, everyone is the same. Discipline says, I will watch patterns before giving access. Bitterness says, my heart is closed. Discipline says, my heart is sacred. There is a difference. Do not become like those who hurt you. Do not let their coldness turn you cold. Do not let their dishonesty make you suspicious of every soul. Do not let their neglect teach you to neglect yourself. Let their behavior become a lesson, not a poison. Pain is a teacher. It is not your name. Betrayal is an experience. It is not your destiny. Sensitivity is a gift. It is not a curse. But every gift needs training. A blade without training harms the hand that holds it. Fire without training burns the house. Empathy without training becomes self-destruction. So train your attention. Where your attention goes, your life goes. If your attention remains on who hurt you, who ignored you, who misunderstood you, who left you, then even in their absence, they still live inside your mind. They still eat at your table. They still sleep in your room. They still shape your mood. Bring your attention back to breath, back to body, back to work, back to silence, back to the small practices that return you to yourself. Back to the people who do not make love feel like a battlefield. Back to the calling you abandoned while trying to manage everyone else's emotions. Ask yourself, what am I here to build? Because if your entire life is spent healing people who do not want to heal, when will you build what was placed inside you? When will you develop your gift? When will you deepen your discipline? When will you create the life that your soul keeps whispering about? When will you stop being the emergency room for people who keep choosing the same wound? Every hour given to unnecessary chaos is an hour taken from your purpose. This is why protecting your peace is not selfish. It is responsibility. A peaceful empath becomes more useful to the world than an exhausted one. Not useful as a place for others to dump pain, but useful as a steady presence. A tired empath gives from resentment. A healed empath gives from overflow. A tired empath tries to save everyone. A healed empath serves where service is true. There is a difference between rescue and service. Rescue is driven by fear. Service is guided by wisdom. Rescue says, I must fix this so I can feel safe. Service says, I will offer what is mine to offer, and I will not steal another person's lesson. Sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is stop interrupting life's teaching. There are people who will only learn when you stop cushioning every fall. There are people who will only face themselves when you stop absorbing the impact. There are people who will only understand your value when your absence teaches what your presence could not. Let life teach them. You are not the universe. You are not the keeper of every soul. You are not responsible for completing every unfinished person. You are human. Your energy is sacred and limited. Spend it where it can grow life, not where it is swallowed by endless need. This truth may make you grieve, because the empath often grieves not only the person, but the dream of who they hoped the person could become. They grieve the potential. They grieve the moments that were almost beautiful. They grieve the version of love they kept trying to create alone. Let yourself grieve, but do not build a home inside grief. Grief is a river you pass through, not an ocean where you must drown. Feel it. Bow to it, learn from it, then keep walking. You can honor what was good and still leave what was harmful. You can remember the beauty and still accept the danger. You can love someone and still understand that closeness is no longer safe. Love does not always mean access. Sometimes love means distance. Sometimes love means silence. Sometimes love means blessing someone from far away while refusing to reopen the wound. Sometimes love means saying, "May you heal, but not through my destruction." This is clean compassion. Clean compassion has no hidden resentment. It does not give in order to be chosen. It does not help in order to feel worthy. It does not say yes while the soul screams no. It does not smile while the body collapses. It does not confuse martyrdom with love. Clean compassion includes you. Say this inside yourself. Compassion must include me. If your kindness excludes you, it is incomplete. If your patience destroys you, it is not wisdom. If your forgiveness keeps placing you back into harm, it is not freedom. Forgiveness may open your heart, but boundaries decide who enters your life. Many empaths misunderstand forgiveness. They think forgiveness means returning. They think forgiveness means giving the same access. They think forgiveness means pretending the wound did not happen. But forgiveness without wisdom becomes an invitation for repetition. Forgive with open eyes. Forgive and learn. Forgive and move differently. Forgive and stop handing sacred things to careless hands. The awakened empath knows that an apology is not the same as change. Tears are not the same as transformation. Words are not the same as consistency. Regret is not the same as responsibility. So they watch patterns. When someone only becomes kind after you withdraw, watch the pattern. When someone apologizes but repeats the wound, watch the pattern. When someone respects your boundary only after you threaten to leave, watch the pattern. When someone loves your light but avoids your truth, watch the pattern. Patterns are louder than promises. The powerful empath is not easily deceived because they are no longer desperate to believe. They can wait. They can observe. They can let reality speak without editing it through hope. When you are desperate for love, you will call crumbs a meal. When you are rooted in yourself, you will know the difference between being fed and being kept hungry enough to stay. Root yourself. Root yourself in daily practice. Root yourself in honest reflection. Root yourself in the body that has carried you through every storm. Root yourself in values that do not change with someone else's mood. Root yourself in purpose. Root yourself in the knowing that you were valuable before anyone needed you. You were valuable before they chose you. You were valuable before they understood you. You were valuable before you proved anything. You were valuable when you were tired, confused, overgiving, and lost. You are valuable now as you rise. Do not wait for the people who hurt you to agree with your worth. The sun does not need permission to rise. The mountain does not ask the valley if it is high enough. The ocean does not apologize for its depth. Why do you keep apologizing for your soul? Stand. Stand quietly. Stand without hatred. Stand without needing applause. Stand even when your voice shakes. Stand even when someone calls you selfish. Stand even when guilt knocks at the door. Stand even when the old version of you wants to trade peace for approval. A person who needs everyone to like them can be controlled by anyone. A person who fears misunderstanding will become a prisoner of explanation. A person who cannot tolerate disappointment will betray themselves to keep others comfortable. But when you can be misunderstood and remain steady, you are free. When you can let someone be disappointed without abandoning yourself, you are free. When you can allow silence without chasing, you are free. Freedom is love without self-betrayal. This freedom may feel strange at first. When you have lived in emotional noise for a long time, peace can feel empty. When chaos was familiar, calm may feel boring. When you were always needed, solitude may feel like rejection. Do not run back to the cage because freedom feels unfamiliar. Sit in the quiet. At first, you may not know who you are without the role of rescuer. You may not know what you like. You may not know what you need. You may feel guilty resting. You may feel selfish choosing yourself. This is normal. When you have spent years tuned into others, your own inner music becomes faint. Be patient. Each day, ask simple questions. What do I feel? What do I need? What gives me energy? What drains me? What truth am I avoiding? What boundary have I been afraid to set? These questions are not selfish. They are the beginning of self-respect. And self-respect is spiritual power. A person with self-respect cannot be easily bought by praise or broken by criticism. They do not chase what dishonors them. They do not stay where their soul is starving. They do not confuse one-sided sacrifice with love. They understand balance, heart and spine, compassion and boundary, softness and strength. Too much heart without spine becomes weakness. Too much spine without heart becomes cruelty. But when the heart is open and the spine is strong, a person becomes unshakable. This is what you are becoming. Do not rush it. A tree does not grow deep roots in one night. A blade is not forged in one strike. A calm mind is not built in one breath. Every time you choose peace without hatred, you are training. Every time you do not answer chaos, you are training. Every time you protect your breath instead of defending your pain, you are training. Every time you choose stillness before reaction, old chains weaken.